Today's sewing tutorial is the April dress pattern. I've finally gotten around to releasing it. I'm so sorry it took me so long to do, but finally getting around to releasing this pattern as well as the maxi dress. It's a two-in-one for this tutorial. Came out with the April dress in June 2021, I think, and it was basically inspired by the April top. It's a very similar design, the cups are the same, and then obviously instead of a nice frilly top, it goes into a nice flowy dress. And I think about a year later or something, I came out with the April maxi dress because I had a few people asking about doing it in a maxi dress, and I also hadn't made a maxi dress at that time, so thought it was a good addition. The April dress is just perfect for summer, but I also wear it throughout winter as well, just by adding some stockings and a blazer. But for summertime, it is literally perfect to just throw on over bikinis. And when I went to Europe last year, I was wearing it most of the days that I was there, and it was just such a great staple to have in your wardrobe. This is the finished mini dress. I'm just walking you through the mini dress tutorial today, but it's the exact same thing for the maxi dress. If you want to see what that looks like, I'll put a video of that up here. But basically it's the exact same steps, it's just a little bit longer. To begin, we will need to print out our sewing pattern and cut out our desired size. We will also need our cutting tools and matching thread. For fabric, I use a light to medium weight linen fabric, but you can also use another type of fabric like cotton or rayon, just something that has a really nice drape to it and will flow. I'm making the mini dress today, but the maxi dress follows the exact same steps. I'm going to cut along the line in the middle of this dress pattern, as this is where the mini dress ends. Make sure you keep the bottom part though, because you can stick this back together later on and create the maxi dress. I'm going to be cutting my pattern along the width of the fabric today, but if yours isn't wide enough, you can cut it against the length of your fabric. Just make sure that you purchase enough to do so. You will need to fold your fabric in half and then place your patterns onto the fabric with the flat edge against the fold. This will be indicated on your sewing pattern. I use a rotary cutter to cut my pieces out, but you can also easily do this with scissors. Cut along the outer edge of the pattern, but make sure you leave that folded edge. On the front pattern piece, there is a notch marked here where I'm pointing, and this is on the fold of the fabric. You'll need to cut from the top down to this notch on the fold, as it'll create the opening on the dress. Be sure to also add the notch that is on the top part as well. Then moving on to the back, make sure that your pattern is on the fold again and cut out the back pattern, adding the notch at the top. Then cut out your straps. My fabric wasn't wide enough for one of my straps, so I just worked out what was missing and then cut out a little bit extra, which I will also then sew to the end of the strap that needed it. Finally, cut out the cups. You'll need 4 of these, and remember to add the notch at the front bottom of the cup, as this will help you indicate what side the front is when sewing. Now it's time to sew. We'll start by pinning the straight edges of our cups and then sewing along where we pinned. When you get to the point on the cup, lift the presser foot up with the needle still in the fabric, and then swivel the fabric around and put the presser foot back down and continue to sew. With the good sides facing on the dress, we'll pin both of the back and the front side seams together and then sew along the straight edges. This is also how I did the strap that was missing a bit of that length too. I just sewed a little edge together. After you've sewn all of those edges, we're going to go over to our overlocker and overlock them. If you don't have an overlocker, you can just do a zigzag stitch to help it from fraying. You'll also want to overlock the bottom of the dress where we'll hem it, and then we'll move on to the straps. So you'll need to fold the straps in half lengthways and overlock the edge. And if you don't have an overlocker, you can straight stitch down the edge and cut off any extra bits with pinking shears or zigzag scissors so that they don't fray. Taking our loop turner or safety pin if you don't have a loop turner, and then we will flip the straps inside out. The last bit we'll do is overlock that opening on the front pattern of the dress. I do this by flattening out the opening, so we'll run one edge through, and when we get to the bottom, we'll just need to maneuver the fabric around so that it lays flat when it goes through the overlocker, and then at the end it'll come out like this. If this is too difficult or you don't have an overlocker, you can zigzag this part, or you can skip it and do a rolled hem or folded hem. I just do a regular hem on either side down to the bottom of that cut. Then I lay the hemmed sides flat, good sides facing, and about 1 centimeter above the hem from the edge, I sew a line diagonally across over the hem, pick the presser foot up and swivel the fabric around with the needle still in the fabric. Then sew about 3 to 4 centimeters down and off the fabric as if I was making a dart. So as you see here, the stitch starts about 1 centimeter up from the bottom of the hem, comes on a diagonal over the edge of where the overlocked edge is, then I swivel and sew down 3 to 4 centimeters over the edge of the fabric, and I lift up and take the thread out, not back tacking, and I just tie the end off myself so that it doesn't pull. Moving on to the cups, we'll cut off about 1 centimeter down from the top edge of both of the cups. Just make sure that you have an opening there, and then we'll thread our front straps through this opening. I like to have the seam of the straps facing the back of the cup, which is also the side that doesn't have the notch on it. Then we'll sew a straight stitch over the strap to secure it, and I also like to sew an extra stitch along the edge starting from about 3 to 4 centimeters down, going up to where the strap is, swivel the fabric with the needle in the fabric, and then put your presser foot back down, sew across the strap again, then swivel, and then sew down the edge again. This just helps to keep it more secure and gives off a bit more of a curve to that top part. Head over to the iron and we will now iron all of our pieces. I like to do a pinch trick with the cups and pinch the edges and then iron it flat. Same with the seam of the dress, and I'll also be ironing the straps. Next, we'll gather our cups, and we do this by changing the stitch length on our sewing machine to be a longer length, and we'll sew a straight stitch along the edge without back tacking either end, and then we can easily gather up the cups by pulling on the threads. With the gathered cups, you'll then pin them into place on the dress, and you'll need to pin the side that has the notch onto the front of the dress where the opening is, and then pin along the edge until you get to where the other notch is on the front dress panel. Then sew along these edges to secure and remove the thread that was used to gather the fabric up. The end of the casing strap will need to be hemmed, and I do one side first and then I go back later on and do the other end once I have finished pinning it all in place. But do the first hem and then pin it in place, and you'll need to pin the good side facing the dress, and also remember to pin in place your back straps at the notches of the back panel of the dress. Once you've sewn along the edge to secure it, I also go over it with an overlocker. If you don't have an overlocker, just zigzag stitch it, or you can leave the edge frayed as it will be hidden, but I like to overlock it to make it more secure. I also like to secure the opening edge of the casing to the front of the dress, so the part where we just overlocked will get those overlocked pieces folded inside and secured by straight stitching along the top. Hopefully you can see what I mean by the video. I also go back and overlock the other edge of the casing. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I do it just so that we don't have all of those frayed bits coming out everywhere. And then we'll go over in and fold over about 1 centimeter of this edge and pin in place. And you'll need to just keep folding and pinning all the way around the casing until you reach the other side. Then we'll do a top stitch along where we've pinned to create the casing. And yes, I know that my pins are facing towards my needle. Just don't worry about that, just ignore that. If you want to sew over your needles, I'd suggest pinning them horizontally so that you can just sew straight over them. I just do them straight ways because then I can just pull them out as I go. Taking a safety pin, we'll then be threading the bust strap through the casing by popping it in and just maneuvering the fabric around. And once you get to the end, I like to tie a knot and cut off the edge of the strap, and I do this for the shoulder straps as well. Finally, the last step is to hem the edge of the dress. I fold over the hem and sew about a 1 centimeter hem, but you can also do a rolled hem or a folded hem if you don't want to have the overlocked edge shown, or if you don't have an overlocker and you just want to hide the frayed edge. Then I also just give it a quick iron and we're finally finished. And that is the finished tutorial. I'm just going to show you also quickly how to tighten and adjust the dress as well. It's the same as the top, but basically all you have to do is just slide the fabric along the strap there, like that, and then you can make all the ruffles as you like, and then tie it up at the front, tie it up at the front, nice and tight under your bust, and then you have it like that. And then you can also tie the shoulder straps 4 different ways. I have a video pinned on my TikTok to show you how to do it, but the normal way that I do it is just like straight up and down like that, but you can also do a crossed back like that if you are wanting a bit more support as well. And then yeah, like I said before, the maxi dress is literally the exact same thing, it's just a little bit longer, and all you have to do for that is just make sure you cut out the maxi dress length. If you need to shorten that length or lengthen that length as well, just make sure you do that when you're cutting out your fabric pieces as well. Anyway, that's all. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I can't wait to see you guys create your very own April dress and hopefully wear it for many summers and winters as well if you feel like.